Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to tell you that I really regret not being with you this morning or this afternoon for the presentations. I'm going to be en route to Grand Junction with my softball team, so I just wanted to tell you all that I definitely would love to have met everybody. I got to meet some of you, but this class has been a real pleasure, and I wish I could present this to you in person today. The case study that I decided to do my final paper on revolves around the ethics in sports, and that can be anywhere from gambling to point shaving to the coercion of agents to cheating to lots of different things, and especially the subject of performance-enhancing drugs. The character and the person that I really want to kind of focus on in the early part of this case study is on a player by the name of Alex Rodriguez. Most of you probably know who Alex Rodriguez is. He is an amazing athlete, amazing baseball player for the New York Yankees. And Alex Rodriguez was a teammate of mine the last year that I played with Seattle, and so I have a little bit of a connection there, and so it's something that I had a little knowledge about and got to foresee firsthand, and kind of wanted to give my take on this. Alex was born in 1975 in New York City, and soon after moved back to the Dominican Republic, where his dad was a catcher for the Dominican team there. His parents divorced, and they ended up moving back to Miami, where he became a star football player, baseball player for Westminster High School in Miami, Florida. He was so good on the football field. He was the quarterback, but even better than that, he was a better baseball player, and every time that he took the field, the scouts would flock the stands and be anywhere near that they could to catch a sight of this guy. He was that much of a phenom at a very young age. He actually signed a full-ride scholarship with the University of Miami, to national letter of intent to play baseball for them. But in 1993, when he graduated from high school, he ended up being the #1 pick in the Major League Draft overall with the Seattle Mariners. At that time, I was in my last year with the Seattle Mariners, and kind of got to witness firsthand this guy coming onto the scene, and he was just a phenomenal ball player. At the time, he weighed 195 pounds and just could do it all. He had power, he had a great arm, he could do everything that the sport demanded from an athlete. This kid, right from the start, really had an impact on the game, and in 2001 he ended up getting traded to the Texas Rangers and signed, at the time, the biggest contract in Major League history. It was a 10-year, $252 million contract. Even with that contract that he signed in 2001, in 2003 he became the MVP. So he did not let the security of a huge contract affect his game. In 2004, he was traded to the New York Yankees, and he picked up his second MVP title in 2007 with the New York Yankees. As I said, this was an amazing athlete, amazing person too. At the time, I got to know him as one of the hard-nosed players that in the game. But shortly after the 2007 season, when he was the MVP, in 2009 is when the trouble begins. He was connected with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Tony Bosch out of the Miami clinic, and Alex Rodriguez admitted to using steroids. Now, he never really came out and said that he used them for very long, but he said that he used them for a very short time. Ultimately, Tony Bosch was connected to over 25 athletes, ranging from a multitude of baseball players, including Mark McGwire, Ryan Braun, Barry Bonds. The list goes on and on. Jose Canseco was involved in that. And as a result, there was a huge investigation, and ultimately Alex Rodriguez was suspended from the game. And he ended up appealing and saying that he never had anything to do with it. And recently now he's been banned from playing in the 2014 season. So even with all of these different things that are going on, the one ethical thing in sports that I want to focus on is the performance-enhancing drugs. Now, performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs, can be looked at in a lot of different ways. They are There's a variety of substances, including anabolic steroids, human growth hormones, supplements. Many of these are legal if they're prescribed by a doctor, and a lot of athletes claim that they start taking them to recover from injuries, or mainly prescribed drugs from doctors to help their bodies heal. Where the trouble begins is when they are taking illegal doses, and they start doing it to get bigger and stronger and recover faster, and they become addicted to them. They lead to other issues, and so that's where some of the problems that come into this arise from PEDs. A lot of proponents of the legalization of PEDs is that the health effects are exaggerated. They say that if they are prescribed and they're taken under the right terms, then it makes an athlete less apt to be hurt, and that the long-term effects are over-exaggerated. They also argue that it's the athlete's decision to make, that if he's willing to take the risks of long-term health effects, then it's up to him. Another argument is that the efforts to ban PEDs is very unproductive and hard to regulate. So that's another argument against or in favor of making them legal. Another proponent argument in this is that, is this the same as improved techniques and new technology? Is it the same as a better treadmill or a better workout or anything like that? And that's kind of where it's really a gray area on whether that should be even an argument or not. And ultimately, it comes down to freedom of choice. Does an athlete have the freedom to choose whether he wants to take the risks or not? Opponents, on the other hand, argue that it's potentially fatal, which has been proven, and in some cases. Now, they can't directly go back to steroids or a specific performance-enhancing drug as a cause of the fatality, but the overuse or of unprescribed drugs is a cause of a few deaths in sports. Another argument is that they are cheaters, that they are cheating, and because it is a banned substance, that in baseball if they're using it, then they're using it to cheat, and not that the playing field's not level. That there's an unfair advantage, that we're not dealing with the natural abilities of athletes anymore, that we are building bigger, better athletes by chemicals, and that they are violating the integrity of the sport. Another argument is that it's sending the wrong message to kids, that we have with role models. These guys are looked at every day, and that it's sending the wrong message. Another opponent's argument is that it diminishes records, that in sports like baseball, where home runs and RBIs and batting average and things like that are historical numbers are put up by some of the great baseball players, that the use of steroids kind of diminishes the fact of what guys did many years ago naturally. Like it or not, we are all involved in sports in some way or another. The Broncos schedule comes out, and we're the first ones to kind of analyze that and kind of hypothetically make an argument for what record they're going to have next year. When from youth sports, we're all involved in some aspect, that we know somebody that's involved in it, and so everybody's involved at some point. With that, there's a lot of expectations on youth, and parents will do whatever it takes to and put a lot of pressure on young athletes, and that's a huge argument in sports, and why some people are bitter toward sports. And I've seen firsthand what it's like when parents are paying thousands of dollars for personal trainers, for the best equipment, for the toughest schedules, and pushing their kids to the very limits. And so we're seeing the pressure at the youth level as well as the professional level. At the professional level, professional athletes have the pressure to be competitive from year to year, to do better than the year before. They are possibly becoming free agents in the off season, and know that their performance will have a great impact on what that contract looks like. And they're many times willing to take the risk, knowing that they will be able to take care of their families and sign big contracts and the notoriety that comes with that. And the other argument is that their careers are so short that they need to sign the biggest possible contract that they can sign. So that's where the dilemma and the ethical problem comes in with sports and the use of PEDs. The fundamental idea of sports is to build character. Is a good reason for playing sports for young kids and all the way up through professional sports. It does build character. It teaches dedication to a team. It instills perseverance in a young athlete and being a part of a team and a program with an ultimate goal of winning a championship. It promotes endurance and long-term, lifelong habits of fitness and taking care of yourself. And it fosters a real sense of self-discipline, and that we are supposed to learn as much from victory as we are defeat, or defeat as much as victory, even though victory is many times a lot more fun. So, and the loyalty to a team is something that is hard to create outside of sports. A lot of kids are musically inclined or have other talents, but sports offers an avenue for parents to immerse their kids in a team environment and surround themselves with a lot of different type of kids. The creativity of strategy, excuse me, and tactics, and is a huge part of sports that makes it fun. And as I was studying this, it reminded me that it's a lot like the same as business as a team, where you create a product, a superior product from your competition. You hire the best team, you hire the best salespeople to sell your product, and ultimately you win out in the end with a proven product and a proven team of support, just like in the business world. So the dilemma comes in on really how far are we willing to go in sports with looking at ethics, and how do we view it? Is it fair? Is it not fair? Now the second part of the paper on the instructor's discussion, guideline, and analysis, for me, to be point blank, the use of PEDs is ethically wrong. That we must preserve the integrity of the sport and keep the playing field level for everyone. The biblical support that I found through researching this project was that it talks about in the Bible about our bodies being a temple, and that we must take care of our bodies, and that we're bound by the laws, and that we need to abide by the rules. And if PEDs are a banned substance, then taking them, of course, is going against the rules. There's a few reasons that I am adamantly opposed to the use of PEDs. Number one, performance-enhancing drugs are against the rules, as I stated earlier. That's number one. It's the easiest, clearest objection to it. So in every sport does have a ban on performance-enhancing drugs at some level. Number two, the long-term health effects of PEDs is just not worth it. I had the pleasure of playing with a young man by the name of Ken Caminetti. Ken was a player, and as I was going through baseball, the use of steroids was real similar. I kind of equate it to, we talked about it in the clubhouse. We talked about the list of things that we had available to us to make us better, and you might think of it as a library of things that could help you be a better player, from vitamins to a diet to a workout plan to steroids to anything at all. There was a long list of things, because steroids at the time was such an unknown topic. Ken Caminetti was very open about his use of steroids, and he originally used steroids to come back from an arm injury. And I was teammates with him in Houston at this time, and I saw him come back where he hit 12 home runs in the first half, and went on the disabled list. They put him on steroids. He lifted hard, he worked out hard, he came back and hit 28 home runs in the second half. So ultimately everybody was looking at him, and even myself, and saying, is this something that I want to think about? And so the pressure to use something like that to sign a big contract is something that I understand. I stayed away from it because the question marks of what the long-term effects were was really vague and a gray area that nobody can answer. But I have a great respect for a guy like Ken Caminiti that came out in the open and talked about it and didn't talk about other teammates. But the downside of it is his use of performance-enhancing drugs, specifically steroids, led to a drug addiction, and it ultimately took his life on an overdose of cocaine. And so it's another reason that the long-term effects of using PEDs can turn into things that we don't even foresee or that you really can't measure or calculate. Another aspect is I truly believe that the use is cheating. That we don't want to create a game where the guys with the most money and the greatest access to prescription drugs are the ones that are the best players. And another, which leads to coercion, and the coercion is in the clubhouse where we see our teammates having spectacular years. We see competitors doing it, and we know that they're on drugs. At one time, Ken Caminiti came out in a statement and said that he believed that 50% of the Major League Baseball players were using steroids. And this was in 1996. And like I said, at the time, it was not a banned substance. It was a very big question mark, and we were all very interested to see what was going to happen to these guys. And as more research came on, that's when the bans started happening. And that nowadays they're trying to make it legal. There's proponents of legalizing it, which would make it across the board legal to use. Now, and that's definitely not an ethical stance, in my opinion. The game of baseball has turned into a huge business, and I chose this topic, which may seem a little strange, but I chose baseball and this topic because it is such a big business, and it's something that I was directly involved in and got to see firsthand. The use definitely jeopardizes the spirit of sport and sportsmanship. So that's my analysis of this case. So some of the questions that would come up naturally in a classroom setting that I would expect people to consider. Number one, does the use of performance-enhancing drugs by some athletes coerce others to use them to remain competitive? That's a viable question that we've already discussed. Number two, does the use of PEDs violate the spirit of sport? And like I said, we're going to get varying opinions of that from some of the athletes that are already involved to spectators and fans. So that's one that is highly debated. Number three, is there an ethical difference between using PEDs and using performance-enhancing technologies in nutrition and training equipment? And as I discussed earlier, from the better equipment that we use, how can we differentiate? Do we differentiate between a better drug that makes us healthier and stronger and able to withstand the daily pressures of being a professional athlete? Number four, do athletes gain an unfair advantage by using PEDs? Number six, would allowing PEDs in sports decrease fan turnout, revenue, and corporate sponsorship? I believe the answer to that is no. I think for the most part, most fans want to see a clean sport. They want to see natural athletes. It's similar to the Olympics, where we want to see the fastest natural athletes running and jumping and competing in team sports. Number seven, do teens use PEDs to emulate the professional role models? And I don't have data to really back that up. It's a discussion, I guess, is a question of whether our role models have such an influence on teens. It's a good question to debate on whether they do have an influence on young kids looking at it and saying, well, I need to take them also. And finally, should PEDs such as steroids be accepted in sports? And as you know by now, my answer to that is no, definitely. I've seen it firsthand. I was teammates with Alex Rodriguez and with Ken Caminiti, and I've been closely tied to baseball for many, many years, and I just saw the long-term effects, what it would do to people, and how it manipulated their minds and bodies. And so that wraps it up. So I hope this gets you thinking about a lot of other topics in ethics in sports. Thank you for listening, and I wish I could have been there today. Good luck, everyone.